Oh, shit, mate. I'm sorry I'm late, honestly.
What's the excuse today then?
Oh, you never guess what, mate. So, my girlfriend leaves a note on the fridge saying this isn't working, but I looked inside the fridge and it was working absolutely fine. Anyways, how's your day been?
To be honest, mate, I'm not really feeling myself, but we've got a banger of a case today.
We do, you're right. Today, we're going over the great escape from Alcatraz.
Alcatraz, the Rock, the mighty escape-proof jail in San Francisco Bay, dreaded by every American lawbreaker.
12 acres of solid rock, the nation's toughest federal penitentiary. It's been described in 4 words: maximum security, minimum privileges.
Forbidding Alcatraz prison, from which no man has ever been known to escape, has its name for impregnability at stake. A daring break for freedom by 3 convicts triggers a manhunt through the caves with which the Rock is riddled and throughout the entire San Francisco area.
Some of you guys might be wondering, what the hell is Alcatraz? To be fair, I'll be perfectly honest with you, mate. It does sound a bit like a fantasy land. Not personally a place that I would have liked to have gone to, but it is a prison on an island in San Francisco Bay. Now, this particular prison, Alcatraz, was a place where you could say the outcast prisoners went. So the ones that didn't quite conform to the other prisons, maybe they tried to escape from other prisons, or they were just violent, whatever, they would get sent to Alcatraz. But what's relatively interesting about it is the fact that a lot of prisoners actually wanted to go to Alcatraz. They wanted to get transferred there, and that was because it was actually viewed to have been a bit better living conditions than a lot of the other ones. So in movies, you always think of Alcatraz in this horrible place that is like hell on an island, but ultimately it was a spot that prisoners actually wanted to go to, a little holiday destination, if you will.
California sunshine?
Exactly.
So today's case is about the great escape from Alcatraz. And first up, let's introduce our escapees.
Ooh.
So first up, we've got Frank Morris, considered the leader of the group.
Frank Morris, what a bloke. Now, he was actually 36 years old at the time of this escape. And funnily enough, you know, a lot of these guys had been moved from previous prisons. Now, he was very first convicted, right, of his crime at the age of 13 years old. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. At the age of 13, I was learning about my own genitalia, okay? But at the age of 13, this bloke was doing up possession of narcotics. So that's what he was actually done for. And then not only that, but he was then getting done for armed robbery. There was lots of robbery in and around the Miami Beach area. But there is one thing to know about Frank Morris, and maybe the reason why he was the leader, and that's because he actually had a really high IQ. His IQ was actually around 133, which meant that he was in the top 2% of the general population. So this guy, you know, he's not an idiot, okay? He's a smart Donny, he knows what he's doing, and to be honest, when we go into the details about this particular escape, you'll start seeing that there was a lot of really smart things that they did in order to get out of Alcatraz. This wasn't actually the first time he was involved in a prison escape. Now, he was actually doing time. He was doing a 10-year stretch away out in Louisiana State Penitentiary, where he was done for bank robbery. Now, he managed to escape there, okay? But then about a year later, he was recaptured in the middle of another robbery. This guy was relentless, okay? So yeah, he got captured there, and then upon being recaptured, they essentially said, right, mate, it's time for you to go to Alcatraz. You'll never get out of there. Or will he?
Following Frank's lead were John and Clarence Anglin. Now, they were born into a big family. They were born into a family of 13, but these two in particular were inseparable when they were young. And when they were young, they actually learnt to swim together, and they actually became quite strong swimmers. So much like Frank, they had a proclivity for crime when they were very young. So at just age 14, Clarence was caught breaking into a service station, and within years, the two were teaming up to break into banks and robbing them.
That's so epic. What was I doing in my teenage years? These guys are going around robbing banks, doing up badass shit, and I'm just stuck at home getting told off by my mum for not doing my homework from last night.
In 1958, they were actually caught robbing a bank and both received 35-year sentences, which is a long time.
Right, I'm not gonna lie, that seems a little bit harsh.
bank
There's like
robberies.
murderers and just like serial killers that don't even get
They
that
get
sort
away
of
with,
time.
get a lot less.
Yeah.
So, so they were essentially sent to a penitentiary, and after repeated attempts to escape, they too were sent to Alcatraz.
Look, these guys don't realize that Alcatraz is actually like a slightly better place than where they were before. So I'm sure these guys probably didn't mind getting sent out there.
Yeah, it wouldn't stop you trying to escape, would it?
Yeah. I mean, what else are you supposed to do in prison?
Yeah. I mean, best case scenario, you get out. Worst case scenario, you get sent to a better prison. So it's kind of
literally.
win-win.
Last guy out of the 4 is a fella named Alan West. Now, look, this guy was arrested 20 times throughout his life. Now, I'm sorry, okay? And look, I'm sure back in those days, things might have been a bit different. But if someone is arrested 20 times, I would say after maybe the 5th or 6th time, it's probably a good idea to keep him in jail.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this guy clearly has a knack for doing illegal activities, should we say. Anyways, again, much like the other people, he was also transferred to Alcatraz in 1957. Now, the 4 of them were all together in Alcatraz, and they'd actually known each other. They'd met previously in some of the prisons that they'd all been at beforehand, before all getting transferred over to Alcatraz. In December 1961, they were actually all assigned adjacent cells, so they were all right next to each other. I'm not gonna lie, that was probably pretty fortunate.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think 4 of them, all having tried to escape from prison at least once in their past, would be sent somewhere inescapable.
I have a feeling that they thought Alcatraz was this inescapable place, but God loves a trier.
Frank probably saw it as a bit of a challenge as well, didn't he?
Exactly, and you know what? Because this happened, they all got assigned those adjacent cells in December 1961. For about 6 months after that, these guys literally just spent the entire time working together to try and figure out their escape plan.
The first step of their plan was escaping from their cells. They had these ventilation ducts underneath their sinks, and what they did was they had to widen these. It wasn't big enough for them to escape through.
I mean, they look pretty small, right? If you look at them, I was thinking like, I'm a pretty slim guy, right? And I'm not quite sure that I would actually make it through there. So yeah, I mean, it would make sense that they spent a bit of time just making it more fittable.
Exactly, and they did that through saw blades they found on prison grounds.
Now hold up. Saw blades on prison grounds, right? You definitely sat there the same way I was, the first time I heard this. Where the hell have they got the saw blades from? Tell me, please.
So, I mean, they're in a prison, and a lot of what they do day to day is the ones that are well behaved get jobs.
Right.
So they'll be working using the saws to perform various jobs, basically.
Okay, and essentially they're nicking them.
They're stealing them, yeah.
Right.
The guards obviously weren't doing a good job of searching them after their jobs.
You would think you've been sent to a prison that you're not supposed to escape from. How about we just have jobs that don't involve saws?
Yeah, maximum security as well. Doesn't sound very secure, does it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so they used those saw blades. They also used metal spoons from the dining hall, and they actually manufactured an electric drill using the motor from a vacuum cleaner.
Now, you remember how we mentioned about Frank Morris being like really smart? I feel like this is definitely where he came into play.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone gave me a vacuum cleaner and said, go ahead and make an electric drill with that, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't know where I'd start.
Yeah, it's pretty advanced engineering.
Not only did the prison allow them to do their various jobs, right? They also had something called happy hour. Now, my happy hour is very different to a prison's happy hour. The prison's happy hour was an hour where they could all just play their musical instruments. Frank Morris would play an accordion, actually. And during this time, obviously, loads of noise happening throughout the prison. That is when they would spend time working on the different things, so using the electric drill, things like that, to open up that ventilation duct and things like that. So they really use that as a cover-up. I mean, you'd think a prison would think about this sort of thing.
Yeah, they're making it easy for them, aren't they?
Yeah, it's almost like they wanted it to happen.
On the other side of that ventilation duct was a utility corridor, And down that utility corridor, they had a secret workshop.
In this secret workshop, that is where they built all the different things that they needed for this great escape. The first thing, obviously, being on an island in a bay, they needed a raft. So they built themselves a 6 by 14 foot raft.
It's a big raft for 4 people, isn't it?
Mate,
It's a very big raft.
I don't know how to show you guys what that looks like, but that seems way oversized to me. It's just like, how big are these lads? 6 foot by 14 foot. You would surely want it to be as small and compact as possible, so that you're not raising. You don't want a yacht leaving Alcatraz. You want it to be small and nimble. But anyways, they went for 6 by 14. And to build that raft as well, they also stitched together, the rumor is they stitched together 50 raincoats too. So it's a pretty serious raft, if I'm honest. Now, a lot of the stuff that they ended up making and put together for this escape was actually, they'd managed to teach themselves through a magazine called Popular Mechanics, right? Now, again, why do these guys have at their disposal a mechanics magazine? Like, you would just think, what do we not want to give people that have tried to escape previously?
An instruction manual, basically, for how to escape.
Literally that.
Because not only that, but there was instruction designs on how to build, how to make life jackets as well, which they were able to make inside the magazine that they were given on an island.
It honestly feels like this is just the most elaborate escape room.
Yeah.
Like they've left all these clues here, and they're just gonna be like, who are gonna be the first ones to put all these pieces together?
Yeah.
And these lads here have given it a good go.
Yeah. So when the ventilation shafts were wide enough, they were finally ready to make their escape. Now, the first thing they did was, in case anyone was passing by their cells and checking in, they wanted to make it look like they were still in their bed. So what they did was, rather than just stuffing some pillows and sort of, tucking them in,
That would have definitely been me.
they actually went through the full effort of making papier-mâché dolls that are actually scarily realistic.
Mate, if I'm a guard and I'm walking past, right, and I see what they look like, I wouldn't think twice. I'd look at it and be like, yeah, fine, sweet, I'm just going to keep going. I don't get paid enough to go in there and check.
Yep, lights are probably off. They actually used hair from the barber shop to put on the papier-mâché heads.
Bruh.
So it looked that real.
Amazing. It's 10:30 p.m., right? It's time for the great escape. Here we go. Now, Morris and the Anglins managed to climb through their ventilation duct, right, and up the ventilation shaft. But that's only 3 of them. Unfortunately, Alan West couldn't make it through his ventilation duct on time. He missed the boat, quite literally missed the boat on this great escape, and no word of a lie, he just went back to bed. They'd gone, and he just went back to bed.
Didn't really have anything better to do, did he?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, if that's me, I'm still making an effort to catch up at least. But once they got to the top of that ventilation shaft, what they managed to do was unscrew like a fan, sort of like an extractor fan type thing, wedged into the roof. So they managed to get rid of that. They climb outside onto the roof, and there was actually a noise that the prison guards heard, but in true Alcatraz, prison break fashion, they decided not to do anything about it. And not even go and check it out. So, great news for the escapees. But the next thing they had to do was descend down a 50-foot kitchen pipe. So it was just on the side. They had to shimmy their way down.
It's a big drop.
That is mate, people don't realize 50 foot is a lot. That's almost 10 me's stacked up. Once they got to the bottom of that, they then had 2 12-foot barbed wire fences that they needed to get over. Keep in mind, they've got like this raft, they've got all their equipment, their life jacket. Like, this is no small operation.
Yeah.
It is said that they managed to do this all in a blind spot. So they knew where the blind spot was, where there were no like searchlights, there was no guard staring at it. So it was like a dark spot of the prison where they could essentially get away with something like that.
See, this is what doesn't make sense to me. You think if they're going to make a prison, and that's where they're going to send everyone who's escaped from prison, just like we were saying about the instruction manual, it's almost like there are too many things that are too convenient for them. The fact that they'd build a prison where there were blind spots, where the search tower and guards couldn't see them, It's just odd, isn't it?
It's the sort of stuff, you're in the middle, you're watching a movie and you go, there's no way that would happen, because if you're on Alcatraz, they're obviously not going to have blind spots.
Yeah.
Well,
But there were.
there was. Now, by the time they get to the water, they had to blow up their raft, all right? Their 6 by 14 foot raft, right? And what they had was, the bloody geniuses, I'm willing to bet it was probably Mr. Morris. He seems to be the brains of the whole operation.
Yeah, I agree.
He used a concertina. Cal, what is a concertina? Well, mate, to be honest with you, I didn't know either, but essentially it looks like an accordion. He's managed to turn one of those into a foot pump in order to pump up the raft when they got it to the water, which, by the way, is just absolutely genius.
It is, yeah. The engineering that goes in behind this. Unless, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there was another magazine with more instructions
Yeah, on how to build a
how
raft.
to inflate a raft, where the blind spot in Alcatraz.
Yeah, exactly. Investigators estimate that, shortly after 10 p.m., that they boarded this raft. And it is said that their destination, where they wanted to head to, was a place called Angel Island, which was approximately 2 miles north of Alcatraz. And that right there is the last thing people know that happened, right? The rest is all a mystery. It's unsolved. What happened to these guys? Now, the next morning, what happened was Alcatraz, hold on a second, we've got some escapees. So a maximum security prison became even more maximum security and completely locked down. But there is a bit of like a funny-ish story. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But supposedly what happened was when they went into the cell and they went to open up the covers, the head sort of just like rolled out of the bed. And I'm not gonna lie, that would give me the absolute fright of my life.
Get up, Morris. God damn it, Morris. I said get up. Jesus Christ.
You're thinking a decapitated head has just rolled off onto your foot. But yeah, that's all we know. There is a lot to discuss around, some of the theories about what happened after that. Are they still alive? Did they die out there? So we're going to quickly run through a few of these theories.
2 days after the escape, Coast Guards found a paddle floating 180 meters just off the south coast of Angel Island, which of course was their final destination. Locals also recovered a wallet wrapped in plastic that contained names and addresses of the Anglins' friends and close relatives.
Photos in a notebook of Clarence Anglin. Funny looking bag. Must have been made from a raincoat.
I would argue that that was probably the most important bit of just anything, when they landed on the shore. It had all the addresses, the photos, everything they needed for when they made it onto land. So the fact that that was just floating out there, I would imagine that these guys, that's probably the last thing they would have wanted to lose, unless they somehow memorized it. Maybe they did, maybe they made copies, I don't know. But they found that floating around, and then also the paddle floating only 180 meters away from their destination, essentially. It's important to note, right, okay, so the water, relatively cold, right? They reckon that, let's say the raft just fell apart, right? The 50 raincoats couldn't hack it, right? And they had to swim the 2 miles. Now, there is a rumor that this was shark-infested waters, but I can officially report that that is, in fact, cap. They have like triathlons in there, meaning that they swim a long distance in that bay. There's no sharks in there, at least the majority of the time. Watch, as soon as this video comes out, there's gonna be a shark attack there. But I'm relatively athletic, but I would bet that most people that are capable of swimming, remember, the Anglins, they were skilled swimmers, right? 2 miles isn't that far.
No.
I would estimate like an hour. I mean, you have to take into the fact the current. So the current in this place was strong.
Yeah.
And that is obviously going to play a massive part into this. Obviously, the water temperature, they reckon they would have lasted 2 hours in there. But if these guys are genuinely skilled swimmers, I think they would have been able to swim those 2 miles. Skilled swimmers doing their thing, escaping the adrenaline. I think they could have done it. Like a week later, it's June 21st, and guess what? Shreds of the raincoat material was actually found knocking about. So, there's a bit there, but other than that, just a little bit of the raft. There's not too much to go on it. But then the following day after that, okay, a prison boat was knocking around, and that found some deflated life jackets roughly 46 meters away from Alcatraz. Now, obviously, look, we're looking at over a week away, so the positioning of finding this sort of stuff isn't actually that accurate. The current, everything would have taken it, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, what I'm thinking is, let's say they did make it, okay? It's not like they were gonna take the raft with them, take the life jackets with them. They would have just left them in the water anyways.
Yeah, that doesn't
right?
really help us then, does it, really?
So some people say, oh, well, I mean, they found the raft in the water, all this sort of stuff. Oh, it must have fallen apart and X, Y, Z. And I was thinking, well, not really, because they would have just left it in the water anyway. So,
and more importantly, there were no human remains found.
yeah, exactly. There was no bodies found, although there was something that did pop up, right? And it was actually a Norwegian ship, which was cutting about, as you do, you know, Norwegian ships all over the gaff, right? Now, it claims 6 weeks after this whole thing had gone down that it saw a floating body, but it didn't actually report that body until it came into the dock a little while later. And by then it was too late and the body wasn't being able to be found, sorry. And this is 6 weeks afterwards. Now, we looked into it a little bit, and we're not convinced that it was either the same body, because 6 weeks on, in these waters, there's animals, there's fish, they're hungry. It's very unlikely that a body would be floating for 6 weeks afterwards, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. You know, even if it isn't sharks, there's a lot that's going to be decomposing that body, turning it into bones, and it'll be
gone.
Sink into the ocean floor long before 6 weeks passes. So, a bit weird for them to just not report it, though, isn't it? Just seeing a dead body.
As soon as you see a dead body, I would be on the blower and say, there's a dead body, but they just left it until they got into port. Maybe the guy was just like, maybe the guy's just like, another fucking dead body.
So Alan West, who obviously didn't make it in the escape, but was involved in the planning of it, didn't really want to be charged in connection with the escape. So he ended up fully cooperating with the FBI. Now he
snitched it.
He snitched, yeah, he went full 6ix9ine on them. Yeah. And he told the FBI that they had actually planned to steal clothes and a car once they reached the other side. Now, there were actually no reports of any theft of any cars or any clothes on the other side. So that does suggest that maybe
they didn't make it.
They didn't make it. Or if they did, their plan didn't go quite according to plan.
Yeah, I mean, could they have convinced someone to give them their car? Did they maybe have someone waiting for them on the other side with a car? I feel like there's a lot of possibilities here. Clothes, I don't know, did they just find some clothes knocking around on the beach? You know, a lot of times, okay, with a car, I would expect that to be reported stolen, but for things like clothes or whatever, I feel like they could have just found some, used some, borrowed some, whatever it is.
Could have hitched a ride easily with someone.
Yeah,
Didn't have to steal a car.
Hitch a ride to somewhere and then steal from there, where they're less likely to look into car theft. I don't know. There was actually an experiment that was performed to really just understand, like, could these guys have done it? Was it possible? And the experiment actually determined that the best time or the best chance these guys had of making it would have been to have left Alcatraz at around 11:30 to 12, as that was the best window considering the conditions, right? But with the guards hearing the sound of that fan, that happened at 10:30, so that would give an hour. Okay, they have to pump up the raft. Remember, they made that thing, so that's going to take a little bit of time. Could they have left it between 11:30 and 12? Yes, I do think an hour between getting off the thing, getting it there, I feel like that's a long time to wait, right? And they were probably risking a lot by waiting that long, but it is certainly possible.
It was a big raft to pump
up.
It
was a monster.
And you'd be pumping for your life, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they would have been.
Yeah.
Taking turns. You know, same with birthday parties when you're doing the balloons. You know, eventually someone else got to do them. I don't have the lungs for it. So.
According to BuzzFeed Unsolved, David Widener, the nephew of the Anglin brothers, said that his uncle, one of their older brothers, confessed on his deathbed, saying that they didn't have to worry about their brothers, that he had been in touch with them, and that they were okay. What do you think about that?
Don't wind me up. You know what I think about these deathbed confessions, right? I'm fed up, right? We did the DB Cooper. Everybody claims they know or were DB Cooper on their deathbed. Why are you guys doing this crap on your deathbed?
He's got nothing to lose, but he's got nothing to gain by it either, does he?
Well, no, the only thing I can think that he has to gain by saying it is that he gets it off of his chest. But it's not like something he's done. True. It's just a bit of knowledge that he might know. But I think it's cap. I'm fed up of deathbed confessions. I don't think we should take deathbed confession seriously. But anyways, I needed to.
Maybe we should get that David on for a lie detector test. That's probably what he needs.
Yeah, but the thing is,
he could be telling the truth.
That's the thing. David could be telling the truth. But it's the Donnie on the deathbed we need to lie detector. But guess what? We can't lie detector him because he's dead.
To be fair, if you were bored and you were about to die, you'd be like, you know what, really stir things up. What is weird though is that the mother actually received cards and flowers with the son's signatures on them after the escape.
Okay.
And even weirder, at family funerals, there were two mysterious women with heavy makeup and veils, and some suggest that this could have been the Anglin brothers.
I'm not gonna lie, I think it's a reach. You're telling me he's dressed up, heavy makeup, women, veil. I mean, it takes a level of skill, right, to really look like that, to look like a woman, and to be able to, do makeup properly. Like, it's a genuine skill.
Well, this is just like what the Greeks done at Troy.
But I just have a feeling that it's a bit of a reach.
If it was you at a family funeral and two random women rocked up for your mother's funeral, and it was quite a small little family funeral, do you not think someone would go up to them and just be like, who are you guys?
How do you know my mother or whoever it is?
Bit of small talk at some point during the funeral. And if you hadn't seen your family in years and you'd rocked up to a funeral, would you really be able to look at your mother and not even just be like, Mum, I'm still alive, I'm safe.
It's
like,
me,
don't
you
worry
dickhead.
about me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's a strange
You
one,
buying
isn't
that?
it? I'm not buying it. It's odd, but I'm not buying it.
For me, the next bit of evidence is probably the best bit of evidence for the theory that they're still alive, and it's all to do with a photo. So this childhood friend took a photo of both of the brothers in Brazil. Right, now looking at these particular pictures, a lot of people sort of accept the fact that this is them. They look at the photo and they say, yeah, that looks just like them. Now, it was actually aired on a show, and some analysis took a look at it, and they agreed. They said, this is looking a whole lot like these guys, right? But the US Marshal's Office actually say the opposite. They say, we don't think you guys can actually verify that this is the brothers, and the main reasons for that is because of the age and the wear of the photos. So the wear and tear of the photos. The photos are old, right? And not only that, but they're wearing sunglasses in it as well. So they are saying you just can't fully tell off of this. And I would agree. To an extent, I would agree, because at the same time, if someone's wearing sunglasses, I feel like the eyes are a very important part of being able to tell the identity of someone. The amount of lookalikes that get tweeted to me on a regular basis, I just feel as though I wouldn't be like, okay, this is 100% nailed on. But to be fair, a lot of people are saying that they do look similar. And for the most part, you can look at a photo and you can be like, that's my mate John.
Especially two of them together.
Yeah.
It's slightly more odd, because you
true.
can always have one sort of doppelganger, but to have two of them side by side that look very similar is quite odd. Although, you know what doesn't make sense to me though? If you were the childhood friend and you knew your two friends had escaped from the most high security prison arguably in the world at the time, and you knew their whereabouts, would you take a photo of them, come back to America and be like, by the way, they're in Brazil, looking fine, go get them.
Yeah, no, that's true, but I'm pretty sure this was a little while after, right? So maybe by then, they'd left Brazil.
Yeah, maybe.
Or at least they give them the heads up, like, yo, guys, this is gonna bang on Instagram. I need to post this. I'm literally sitting on a gem of a picture here. Can you please leave Brazil so that I can get my Instagram likes?
Just trade for clout, hey.
I know, hey, anything for clout these days.
But yeah, the US Marshal's Office just flat out denied that it was them. Not even ruled that it was inconclusive, which is quite strange. Just denied, being like, no,
nah.
not them.
It's not possible. It ain't them. I think they just don't want it to be them, because I suppose it does also make them kind of look bad in a way.
It does, yeah.
Like, oh, these prisoners actually got away and they're living happily ever after.
And what does it say to all the other prisoners? If you can tell all the prisoners going like, these guys tried to escape once and
Yeah.
they probably died in the water. No one's going to try it. But if
Exactly.
you go, they made it, you know, it encourages
Hella.
us to try it again.
Exactly. The other side of the coin is that the three of them actually died, either on the raft, in the water, somewhere in between there. Really, the main sort of backing behind this is just that the journey would have been extremely difficult to do, considering the current, the conditions, things like that. It would have been tough. Now, there was actually a reenactment of the escape done by Dutch scientists, and they did it for PBS, which is like a news outlet, if you will. And they built the same raft as the prisoners. They'd done all the same thing. You know, the raincoats, they got it all together, right? And they did the exact same thing. Now, what they claimed was that two of the men would have had to have been working to keep the raft inflated while it was going on, right? And one would have to be the paddler.
Every 10 minutes, they have to add more air. And the tidal rip is getting rougher.
Two of these guys pumping that accordion like there's nobody's business, and the other geezer giving it the paddles,
For
right?
the biggest man-made raft
Right.
in history.
Surely, you know, if they did die, they're probably in the middle of this raft going, why is it so big?
Yeah.
They said that, and not only that, but the water was cold, you know. It's not easy to survive. If anyone has ever jumped in an ice bath or anything like that, you'll know it's freezing. And they claimed that they would have only been able to survive for 2 hours. I think you also have that wallet as well. We go back to the wallet that they found and how important, how much of an important piece that would have been for them to hold on to. You know, it could have been one of those that maybe it just went overboard and they went, oh, let's go back and get it, and said, no, we can't go back and get it.
Yeah.
Is that the reason? I mean, we've spoken briefly about, you know, did they leave it there on purpose to make it seem like they drowned? But I just think that is just, you're not thinking about that at the time. It's all about just making it to the other side and just escaping. I just don't think that in the middle of it, they're thinking, right, how can we throw people off of our scent?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're almost at midnight and you're paddling and pumping air for your life. You're not thinking, oh, let me just chuck this over so the police don't come. One of the biggest things for me about why I have a feeling that they are alive, right? Because I think, if you ask me, do I think they're alive or dead? A lot of people will actually say that they think they just died in the bay, in the water. But I actually think they're alive, okay? And the main reason for that is this could mean just being an idiot, and I know the conditions were rough, and I know it's hard to swim in this waters, but at the end of the day, it's a 2-mile swim, okay? It's a 2-mile swim. Yes, the currents were rough, everything, I understand, but you can swim 2 miles. The two brothers were skilled swimmers. We are not talking about people that can't swim or are not very good at swimming. These are two good swimmers. Even if the raft falls to pieces, I think they can swim and they can do it. They've obviously left the raft in the water. There's no need to take all that stuff out. Maybe I'm just clinging on because I love the idea of a prison break. I love the idea of an escape, but I just really think that they are actually alive. What do you think?
I agree. I just don't think there's enough. I'm sure if all three of them didn't make it, 3 bodies in this bay, you'd think the remains of one of them would show up. You know, it's not entirely clear what they did if they did get to the other side, but I don't look at that. I mean, 16 degrees, I believe the water is in degrees Celsius. Yeah. It's cold, but I agree. I mean, if people do it as a triathlon, not only do they do that swim, but they then go for a run straight after.
And a cycle.
And a cycle. So, you know, if people can do it, if
it's possible.
Thinks he can do it, 2 keen swimmers.
Yeah, we're absolutely buzzing off adrenaline, literally swimming for their life, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Your body hits a different level. What are you leaning towards, truthfully?
You know what? I think it is wishful thinking, but I do think they did it. And one extra thing that makes me think that it really is possible is this letter sent to the FBI. So in 2013, the FBI received a letter. Now, this wasn't published until January 2018, when CBS published an extract that basically read, "My name is John Anglin. I escaped from Alcatraz in June 1962 with my brother Clarence and Frank Morris. I'm 83 years old and in bad shape. I have cancer. Yes, we all made it that night, but barely." Now, the letter said that he was the last living member of the 3 escapees, and essentially was writing the letter to bargain. He basically said that if the police gave him the medical treatment that he needed for his cancer and only a 1-year jail sentence, that he would come forward. But
Wow.
there is a big but. The FBI actually performed some analysis on the letter, and they carried out fingerprint and DNA analysis, but the results were inconclusive. The FBI never responded to the letter.
Right. So my big thing here, right, okay, is that look, they've received a letter here, and for all we know, it could be absolute waffle, just some bloke. But right, the main thing is, okay, let's say the FBI responded and said, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll take you up on it. Surely they then go and they say, yeah, sure. They meet up with the guy, and if they go, okay, you're not John, then the thing was fake in the first place. Now, it says, obviously, that they carried out fingerprints and DNA, but you have to remember, testing way back then, you know, do they still even have any of the fingerprints and DNA? If they did, is it still actually useful? It said that it was inconclusive, so it's not even like saying, okay, it definitely wasn't him.
Yeah.
You know, or is it better just for the FBI to just ignore it, just almost pretend like it didn't happen, so that they can still say that he died in the water and potentially put anyone off of, you know, wanting to escape prison, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I understand that, you know, the chances are that this letter is probably waffle from someone, but I just don't understand why they wouldn't take it a step further.
Yeah, exactly. Just to see. I think you're right. If they had just said yes, fine. Come forwards. You know, they can give him the 1-year jail sentence. It's obviously a lot less than he should have had, but they can close the case.
And the guy's old, and if he
out.
does genuinely have cancer, then, you know, he was done for robbery and stuff. He's not going to be, well, I hope not that he's robbing stuff at the age of 83, 84. Something just didn't quite seem, like, you just go and look into it. But yeah, you know what, it could just be a big fan of the case that wanted to stir some stuff up and make it into the news. And if that's the case, well, it worked. Because like you said, in 2018, it was published by CBS, a massive news network.
And even more massive is this channel we're on now speaking about it. So
I mean, look, now he's made it. Yeah, he's done it. He's completed it. He can die a happy man.
He should have given them something to be like, by the way, here's proof, you know. Here's a little thing, you guys, if you go look, you'll find this nail underneath the bed, or
something
just
like
something
that.
to be like, it really is me. But now it's been, you know, nearly a decade. He's probably, you know, might very well have succumbed to his cancer, which is kind of sad. So
at least, hey mate, at least it wasn't a deathbed confession.
True.
At least it wasn't that. I mean,
yeah, it's not far off.
Yeah, fair enough. Little update for now. Well, in 1963, Alcatraz was shut down. It was no longer. So that meant that our good man, Alan West, the snitch, the grass, he said, so he was actually transferred to Washington and then back to Atlanta. And then he was finally released in 1967. Fantastic stuff, Alan. On the straight and narrow. Get your life back. No. He was actually arrested again in Florida on charges of grand larceny. Theft, right?
On a big scale.
Yeah. In 1972, he then went and stabbed another inmate, and in 1978, he died of acute peritonitis. Look, Alan, mate, you've had a bit of a howler, fella. I'll be perfectly honest with you, but we couldn't let you not know what happened to our good friend Alan, who unfortunately didn't make it in time through that ventilation duct. But that's gonna wrap it up for today. That's the case on the Fellas Mysteries. Chip, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. You're looking healthy. You're looking great, my friend. And guys, as always, we want to hear what are your guys' thoughts about all of this. Leave your comments down below. Please let us know. Talk about the case. We'll be interacting, responding to comments, so do go ahead and check that out. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, and then you can go and subscribe to Chip's channel in the description if you haven't already. Chip actually does some true crime stuff now as well. So you guys should go and take a look at that. Until next time, we'll see you guys in a bit. Laters. Oh my God, I know. Look, I'm sorry, Chip. I really am. Like, I feel like I've always got an excuse for you. But honestly, Chip, like, today, right, you gotta put that down.
I thought you said, I'm sorry, I'm late. And I was supposed to say, what's your excuse? But you were like,
well, I've waited for ages
you
for
went,
you to say
and I
what's my excuse?
I thought you were going to say that.
This is going to be a fucking show.
Okay, so
A week later, oh my goodness, sorry.
That's all right.
A week later, Oh my goodness. I start the sentence.
You're in there.
And
I'm going to bang it. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
go on.
on.
All right, here we
My
go.
brain just goes, don't mess it up.
A week later, shreds of raincoat material that were...
I'm
You made
ruining
eye
yours
contact.
now. I shouldn't look at you.